So, Baruch Hashem, here we go. So we're starting the sixth of the six constant mitzvahs in which we create a cube around us of divine space. And then we're going to learn how to daven in that divine space that we're creating. But we have one more of the six. We've already done five. We're going to review. And today we're going to do the sixth constant mitzvah for every Jewish man, woman, and child. Okay, so review. Remember the first constant mitzvah, which we can do anytime while waiting for the light to change, waiting online at the bank, just about any old time at all. So on top is Emunah in Hashem, faith in Hashem. That's the first of the six constant mitzvahs, and we visualize it as the top of the cube. So that's like a Nochi, when Hashem says, I am the Lord your God on Mount Sinai. And then the next line is Lo yeh lecha, I won't have any other gods besides you. That can be a big challenge for some people. Only Hashem, yes. Okay, so that's below us. In front of us, we have the unity of Hashem. We spoke about that, just that it's all Hashem. It's unbelievable. He created the entire universe, so to speak, out of himself, and it's all him. You have to meditate on that one. And then we have love on our right side and fear on our left side. So we did all of those. We finished fear. And now we're up to the sixth, which is very interesting. The chapter head is loyalty. It's page 67. There's some pages in our lessons. Hindel Swerdloff was kind enough to photocopy and put up the pages there for anyone who wants to look inside but doesn't have the book. All right, so page 67, loyalty. At the back is the mitzvah, below sasaru acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. And it continues, asher atem zonim achareihem. Now this sounds very familiar, besides the fact that we've spoken about it a lot when we were learning, especially when we were learning Tanya chapter 27. But it originates in the fourth Chumash, the fourth of the five books of Moses, Bamidbar. And the sages put it as the third paragraph of the Shema. Okay, so it's a big deal. And that's where we have this line, Lo sasaru, and you shall not stray after your heart and after your eyes. To be a zone, zoning is like prostitution, prostituting ourselves. The mitzvah is we shouldn't prostitute ourselves after our thoughts. Big, it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. It's very subtle. What does it mean? We're going to find out. Okay, so let's look at footnote 1. If you have the book, it's on page 248, and otherwise I'm going to read it. Now, this mitzvah is from the fourth Chumash. Note that the sources in the Torah for all of the first five constant mitzvahs appear in their normal order, from the beginning of the Torah to its end. In other words, the first one, Emunah, comes before the second one, and the second one comes before the third one. They're all in the order that they appear in Chumash from the beginning. Oh, but that's only true of the first five. Okay. Only here do we backtrack with that word in quotes. We backtrack in the order of the Torah, as did the sages in compiling the three paragraphs of the Shema. This is seemingly appropriate for the consciousness of the back. We're backtracking. And it's very interesting that this footnote is pointing out that in the Shema also there's three paragraphs. The first two are from Devorim, the fifth Chumash, but then the sages again backtrack and include as the third paragraph something from the fourth Chumash. And this is similar in the six constant mitzvahs that we are backtracking. Okay, continue with this footnote. To understand this phenomena in greater depth, we must remember the back in Kabbalah and Hasidus is generally interpreted to imply forgetting. One is not aware or conscious of that which is behind one, and thus the back I guess nowadays, with modern technology, we can see what's behind us, but without, if you don't have your mirror or your computer in front of you. One is not aware or conscious of that which is behind one, and thus the back implies repression into the subconscious. The Torah states that forgetfulness is a result of the arrogance of the heart. It was a quote, and your heart shall be haughty, and you shall forget, from Devorim. Arrogant people face only themselves. All else is repressed and forgotten. So I guess the cure is, what can I do to help? If we're, God forbid, feeling an attack of arrogance, how can we recognize that we spend so much time on shiftless? I guess if we feel ourselves better than someone else, I guess we might feel we're having an attack of arrogance. And then how to get out of it quickly. What can I do to help? I put the focus on another person. People need a lot of help. Just even saying hi and smiling can take us out of ourselves. By fear, we nullify or neutralize the haughtiness of the heart. Now that's interesting. If we can use fear, if we're afraid of something. We're afraid of losing our telephone. God forbid, we're afraid of, ... I won't go into any more of the word. But we can use fear to lower our arrogance. Isn't that interesting? I never would have thought of that. Everything is useful. Everything can be used. To use fear. I shouldn't be arrogant. I'm fearful. Okay. Thus, after fear, we remember to backtrack in the order of the Torah, just as the farmer returns during the harvest to find forgotten sheaves. This very mitzvah begins with negating thoughts of arrogance, as we shall explain. So, this is a topic we've spoken about a lot, about the idea of taking the ego out of the center of our consciousness, putting it aside for a moment, and putting Hashem in the center of our consciousness. It's the same idea. Okay, so let's read this paragraph on page 67. This mitzvah appears in the third and concluding paragraph of the Shema in our daily prayers. It is the sixth and last of the six constant mitzvahs, the mandate to guard our minds from foreign, arrogant, or licentious thoughts and desires. So it's arrogance and licentiousness were those are the thoughts we're looking at. Such thoughts and desires have the negative effect of diverting our attention from Hashem and confusing our priorities. So if we get into one of these things, one of the signs that it's happening is that we divert our attention from Hashem. We forget Hashem. We can do that if we get into one of those licentious thoughts or arrogance, and we don't want to divert our attention from Hashem, because remember that whole book Twinkle was about the most important thing for memory is remembering Hashem. If we fulfill the first 5 mitzvahs as we have described them, we will naturally want to strive to protect our precious relationship with Hashem from dissolution. Yes, we want to protect our precious relationship with Hashem. That's why we're learning this. I'm so excited. We're going to learn how to protect our precious relationship with Hashem. Okay, footnote 2 on page 248 for those who have the book. The sages interpret that after your heart refers to heretical thoughts, minut, like minim or apikorsim, and after your eyes refers to licentious thoughts. Okay, let's see, I think we can skip the rest of that footnote. So we're going to go back to page 67. The seal of truth. Relative to the previous 5, this mitzvah is the seal of truth, the real measure of our relationship with God, the real measure of our loyalty to Him. Now, this is very heavy because normally, when we've been learning Lo Sasaru in the past, it is in chapter 20, the Alter, but besides the fact we say it in the Shema every day, that we shouldn't become zoning, we shouldn't become prostitutes after our thoughts. The fact that it's a real measure of our relationship with Hashem, the real measure of our loyalty to him, is pretty heavy. Maybe I'll just tell a joke now to lighten things up. Thank you for laughing ahead of time, all people. Now, this is really a strange joke. I have to admit, I heard it in the locker room of the pool, and I was always very unsure if I could repeat it in public, but I did that week that I heard it. I think I told it at the beginning of 5 classes, and it did go over well. So I don't know. You don't feel you have to laugh. It's a little odd, but okay. So there was a new waiter at the wedding, and the head waiter told him to go around with the little note cards and a pen and to write something on each of them and put it on the table. And he went around and wrote, "The challah is a zona." And everyone was very startled and upset. "What do you mean? That's like, how can you write that on every table?" And the head waiter came out and started yelling at him and said, "I told you to write the challah is mazonas." So you could see what a big mistake that could be. From the challah is a zona is the mistake, and it's supposed to be the challah is mazona. So people often send me, when I see signs, the pizza's mazonas, the challah is mazonas, they always, you'll always laugh when you see that something is mazonas. You'll just find you can't help but think of that joke. I always laugh at my own jokes, but okay. All right, so back to the serious part here. So our doing, how much we're careful about our thoughts, about choosing whether to follow a thought or not, is the real measure of our relationship with Hashem. It's powerful, right? Of our loyalty to him. Indeed, returning the page, the Hebrew word truth, emes, aleph mem taf, is cognate to the word loyalty, ne'emanut. The seal of truth refers in Kabbalah to the sphere of Yesod, foundation, which corresponds in the body to the procreative organ, as noted earlier. Here we are loyal, true to our spouse. In our relationship to Hashem, our divine groom, all of our pleasure and desire is permeated by his will and directed to him alone. So this is, well, it's Elul, the king is in the field. We have some time. So by the way, next week, which is going to be our last class before Rosh Hashanah, because 2 weeks from now, it's hard to believe, will be Rosh Hashanah. So we won't have a class on that Sunday. It'll already be Rosh Hashanah here, but we will have a class next week, and it'll be on Rosh Hashanah. And if people have reminded me, there were like super duper good things on Rosh Hashanah in our Twinkle book. So if you have the Twinkle book, bring it next week to your phone or computer for our class. Okay, so now the king is in the field. So this is a very good time for us to come up to him and say, yes, we'd like to direct ourselves towards you. The righteous one is the foundation of the world. This is a quote from Mishlei Tzadik Yesod Olam. The righteous person, the tzaddik of every generation, the one pillar of the generation, is like the first human being, Adam before the sin. Note that the Torah refers to both Adam and Chava as Adam, as will be explained presently. I'm just going to finish this and I'll explain more. Adam was created on the 6th final day of creation, representing Hashem's seal of truth with respect to all of creation that preceded that day. Truth is the realization of reaching the end, reaching the purpose of creation. Adam, the one and only created being of revealing God on earth, revealing Hashem on earth, revealing Hashem on earth. Interesting idea. So this is our shlichus. This is a shlichus that we all have in common. We all have an individual shlichus of lighting up our part of the world. And we have a general shlichus of revealing Hashem. This is for all of us. We're here to reveal godliness in the world. We have that in common. Now that shouldn't, it has its tests from time to time, but it's good to know that this is part of our joint mission. Initially, Adam was the hidden unconscious of all creation, the initial back of creation. Adam was created as Siamese twins with Eve at his back. Just as Chava was the initial unconscious side of Adam, so is Adam the initial unconscious side of the world. It's raison d'etre. So people, because we're the young people are the ones who can reveal Hashem in this world. So I want to say something about the fact, because this is also very connected with Rosh Hashanah. We're getting a little Rosh Hashanah in tonight. They were created back to back. In Kabbalah, there's a lot written. I've heard Y.Y. Jacobson teach it many years ago, and I still lived in Crown Heights. So he said, so they're back to back. So it has advantages that he could wash the milk dishes and she could wash the meat dishes because they're back to back if your sinks are arranged properly. Also, they always knew where the other one was. They always knew on my back. Of course, this didn't last very long. The very day that they were created, Rosh Hashanah, the Nasira took place. The Nasira is the surgical separation where they become two separate people, which was quite a traumatic experience. I mean, it has the advantage they could turn around and face each other. That's a big deal, looking at somebody face to face, looking at somebody in their eyes face to face. But the person can also say, bye, I'm out of here. So it's high risk behavior, that separation. They're no longer, but this is what happens. This is what happens like Erev Rosh Hashanah, the separation. And we have to, and Malchus is reduced to a dot, and the whole thing of Rosh Hashanah is rebuilding Malchus, having Malchus gain all the parts of its personality that the traumatic experience took away of being separated. And we build Malchus back up. The blowing of the shofar, all the blows is giving Malchus back one of its character traits. It gets Chesed Sheva Malchus, Gevurah Sheva Malchus, everything Sheva Malchus. We're building up Malchus on Rosh Hashanah. Sovereignty, kingship, interesting. Okay, so to walk behind God. Many verses of the Torah, we're on the bottom of page 68, many verses of the Torah speak of serving Hashem by walking after, behind him, alluding to the sixth mitzvah of the Torah, the sixth constant mitzvah of the Torah. You shall not stray after your hearts and after your eyes. By not straying after, we come to walk after God in perfect loyalty to him. So instead of going after those lustful thoughts or whatever the arrogant thoughts, instead we're just using our thoughts to walk after Hashem. Furthermore, this mitzvah includes the injunction against searching for Hashem in paths other than the ways of Torah. So we're going to look at footnote 8. That's circled. Oh, that's very interesting. Yes, I'm very happy to do footnote 8 on page 249. The word stray, tataru, so it says low, we say sasaru, good Ashkenazi accent, but here at Eretz Yisrael, they would definitely say tataru. The word stray, tataru, in this verse also means search out or explore, as in to explore the land, lator haaretz. That's from Parsha Shalach in Bamidbar. This is very interesting because Parsha Shalach begins with using the verb as litor, to explore the land. Indeed, the verse, and you shall not stray, appears at the end, the back of the Torah portion Shalach, that begins with the story of the spies who were sent to explore the land. So that root is used both at the beginning to explore the land and to not follow at the very end of the chapter, not lo sasaru. We shouldn't follow after our eyes and heart to prostitute ourselves. The word tataru is also related to the word Torah because it has a taf and a resh, derived from the verb to instruct. Thus, and you shall not stray implies not searching for foreign spiritual paths for would-be Torahs. The sages teach if someone says there is wisdom among the nations, believe it. But if he says, there is Torah among the nations, do not believe it. Eicharab, a famous quote. Okay, back. So we just did footnote 8, and now so that's back to page 69, right after the 8. Although these paths may lure us with the promise of excitement or more immediate spiritual gratification, if we remain true to our ideals, we will focus our minds and hearts solely on Hashem, as he has made himself accessible to us, so to speak, through the path or lifestyle of the Torah. The Torah then teaches us how to properly meet the challenge of finding Hashem in all aspects of reality. I like that sentence. I think that sentence should be shared. The Torah teaches us how to properly meet the challenge of finding Hashem in all aspects of reality. So it reminds us, number one, that we have a challenge. We have a challenge to find Hashem. It's so tricky sometimes, right? I mean, Hashem is so well hidden. He's so hidden. We can't give up, we have to keep on looking and finding him, not only finding him, but in all aspects of reality. And we have to remember when we're learning this, that we're being empowered by the Rebbe, by Rav Yitzhak, to be able to do these things. And we're empowering each other, learning it together. We're empowering each other to be able to do these things, to be able to find Hashem. Okay, rear guard. Since the foe prefers to attack from behind, trying to catch one off guard, this mitzvah is placed behind the consciousness as a protective rear guard or background force field. Now, isn't that interesting? So that's footnote 9. So I'm very into the footnotes this week. Page 250, footnote 9. As did Amalek, the arch enemy of Israel. He attacked us from behind. In particular, the sages teach that Amalek blemished Israel's holy covenant, the bris, identified with the procreative organ, corresponding to this last of the 6 constant mitzvahs of the Torah. Above, we saw that remembrance of Amalek corresponds to this constant mitzvah. Based on the words of the prophet Ovadia, we learn that Amalek will be vanquished by the seed of Yosef, the archetypal soul that corresponds to the sphere of Yesod, who stood the trial of guarding his holy covenant, of guarding the bris, when Geveret Potiphar sought to seduce him. We know that famous story. We've spoken about it many times. This idea of Yosef, it was like such a big deal. He was like 17. Everyone was doing it in Mitzrayim. No one would have known. No one would have said in the grocery store the next day, oh, I knew his bubby in Odessa and she did the same thing. No one would know she was doing it. They all were doing it. And yet he saw an image of his father, and he looks like his father. And his father saw him as a spiritual giant. He saw himself as his father saw him, and he rose to the occasion. Yosef ran to the occasion, and he rose to the occasion, and he ran away. And we spoke many times with the sea. When we got to the sea, time for Kriyas Yam Suf, we were just a wreck. The sea was not impressed. This was not the same people I saw before creation, their souls in heaven. But when the sea saw the bones of Yosef, the sea also fled. So it was a very big deal, protecting the bris, overcoming that test. I guess he empowered all of us. He empowered all of us that we could make the right choices. We have to remember that we're empowered to make the right choices in tempting circumstances. Okay, so now we did footnote 9. And okay, so we're in the middle of page 69. Since the rear guard prefers to attack from behind, trying to catch one off guard, this mitzvah is placed behind the consciousness as a protective rear guard or background force field. Furthermore, forward and backward are often taken to indicate in Kabbalah the desired and the undesired. If we fulfill the first 5 mitzvahs, we are assured that the foreign enticements of this world will be truly behind us, which is why the verse is phrased, and you shall not stray behind your heart and actually after your heart and after your eyes. And it's really the same word. After is the same word as behind. So that brings us to footnote 10, which says, let's see, no, I think we'll skip footnote 10. Let's go back. So the bottom paragraph on 69. Foreign enticements often distract us from what is truly meaningful in life. And as a result, we squander our energy, not allowing our lives to be as productive as they could be. So this is like a personal question that we all have to ask ourselves. Are we squandering our energy? Are there any times of the day that we squander our energy? Okay, footnote 11, that one I want to do. This sin is known as the blemishing of the bris, pagam habris, the wasteful spilling of one's vital procreative seed, either literally or allegorically, in the sense of wasteful squandering of one's God-given energy and talents. Oh, now we're getting not only energy, but talents. The wasteful squandering of one's God-given energy and talent. So we can throw that into our Tuesday at 3. Remember, we're going to do a Cheshbon HaNefesh Tuesday at 3. Somebody just wrote me that they have an appointment Tuesday at 3. They're very excited. They'll be able to make the most of Tuesday at 3. Okay. So, and okay, I usually don't do gematrias, but this one is very interesting. We're continuing on the footnote on 250. The numerical value of Pagam Habris, 740, is the same as that of Chelik Elokai Mima'al Mamish, an actual part of God from on high. Mamish. When the Alter Rebbe says Mamish, he means really, really, really. The phrase that best depicts the essence of the divine soul of Israel is Chelik Elokam Mima'al Mamish, a piece of God, Mamish. From this we understand that more than any other transgression, Pagam Habris blemishes, i.e. conceals or represses the consciousness of the true and essential source of one's soul in divinity. Wow, that's very heavy. It makes sense, I guess. I guess if we give in to licentious thoughts, it covers our consciousness that our soul is divine. Because if we were conscious that our soul is divine, we wouldn't want to blemish it. It's a tricky business. 740 is also the numerical value of Rabbono Shel Olam, master of the universe, a common name of God, the omnipotent creator and king of the universe. So Rabbono Shel Olam, it's interesting, there's a lot of prayers that begin that way. One that's very popular is the very first prayer in the prayers that we say before going to sleep. Kriya Shema Lahal Mita begins with these words, Rabbono Shel Olam, master of the universe. And it's a very special sentence. It's saying, I forgive everybody who angered me, who upset me on any level in this incarnation or in any other incarnation, very cosmic, and no one should be punished on my account. And I really loved that when I first became frum. This is one of the first things that was translated into English in 1974. And I thought that was so beautiful. I thought it really attracted me in my first 20 minutes of being frum. But anyway, the first night I slept over in Crown Heights, and I had these lovely girls all giving me enthusiastic things that I could be doing, like saying Rabbono Shel Olam. So no one should be punished on my account really struck me as a very healthy way to look at the universe. At any rate, okay, so that's one of Rabbono Shel Olam. Just to finish this, the essence of the divine soul of Israel is indeed an actual part of the master of the universe. And when our bris is pure, when we have done tshuva and rectified our pagam habris, we are able to manifest our essential connection to the Rabbono Shel Olam, to the master of the universe. Now listen to this, quote, for the tzaddik whose bris is pure decrees and Hashem fulfills. Hashem decrees and the tzaddik nullifies. So this is Gemara Shabbos 59b, quoting Eov, and this is very useful information. So this is like, It seems like a lot of work getting these thoughts lined up, being a righteous person. But look what the perk is. That the person who gets this blemish healed, does tshuva on this blemish, they become the tzaddik who decrees and Hashem fulfills. That could be a lot of fun. And Hashem decrees, and the tzaddik can nullify a decree, because it's such a big deal to get this right. And so we can improve. We can improve. I mean, it's a lifetime thing. But even if the thoughts we give into become more refined, it's already a refinement. It could be that I can no longer give into blah, blah, blah. I know I just can't follow those thoughts. I just, after 48 years, there might be some other ones that aren't really so great either, but it's still a refinement. I'm sure you know what I'm speaking about. I mean, it's a lifetime process, what it means, because thoughts are constantly arising. And this idea, this is one of the 6 constant mitzvahs, because we could think, oh, this is for people much more spiritually advanced than me. This is for us. The Alter Rebbe had a lot of faith in us, in the average person, in the ordinary person. He really felt we could do this. And that probably means that we can. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. Let's do a little bit more. So we did, okay, foreign, so I think we're on, did we do, I'm just checking. Did we do footnote 11? Yes, okay, got it. Okay, so on the very bottom line of 69, if we are truly devoted to God, and we will desire to make our lives productive or potent, Let's go over that sentence one more time. I needed a little better reading than that. If we are truly devoted to God, we will desire to make our lives productive or potent. Now that's an interesting choice of words. Rather than wasting our time and talents on things that add nothing to and often even detract from the overall awareness of God in the world, we aspire to imbue all of our actions with mindful purpose and drive in fulfilling Hashem's will and heightening the world's awareness of him again. So this is, again, a general shlichus to all of us. Let's go over this carefully. So again, we say we have our specific shlichus in our corner of the world that no one can light up as much as we can, because we know all the details, right? But at the same time, we have a general shlichus to imbue our actions with mindful purpose. And it does feel good when we do that, and we can accomplish a lot when we do that. Like making Shabbos, there's a lot of mindful purpose. It has to go in. It's unbelievable, actually. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Before I was from doing as much work as now, we could just, do it. Okay, I won't. So, yes, there's a lot of work involved, but mindful purpose and drive in fulfilling Hashem's will. Okay, and then to the world, to make the world more aware of Hashem, and of course, in the most subtle and careful way, right? But the Rebbe would say, "Ba'ofen hamakabel," in the way that a person can receive. It's not just telling them stuff, but it has to be in a way that they can accept it. So that takes a little psychology. We have to be able to connect with the people, be their friend first, and then we can tell them. Okay, so let's finish this. So this next chapter is actually very interesting, but I guess we might not have a chance to do it till after Rosh Hashanah, because again, next week we're going to be doing Rosh Hashanah, and we're going to be doing some of Rosh Hashanah from Twinkle. So bring it along. But let's look at this last part on page 70. And the next chapter is on prayer, which is what we're going to do in this divine space that we created. We're going to learn a lot more about being prayer in our space. I'm very excited that we're learning this together. I'm quite curious about it. Okay, so sunset, the last paragraph here. As front and back correspond to east and west, they symbolize sunrise and sunset in the consciousness of the soul. As our sun, our clarity of mind rises on the horizon of our consciousness. We are to unify Hashem, the merciful creator of the universe, with the verse Shema Yisrael. Interesting. So it's saying our sun is our clarity of the mind. It's like clarity is rising in our consciousness. What an interesting image. Clarity. So let us daven for clarity to rise on the horizon of our consciousness. And we say Shema Yisrael, we unify God. The idiom for sunset in Hebrew is literally the coming of the sun. The sun penetrates the horizon. I've never seen that idea before. And we get to see sunsets at least 4 months of the year on our back porch. Only 4 months because we're on the north side, and the sun has to clear the whole west side. And so we only see it from like April. We see it for 4 months. It just disappeared today. We don't like to complain about the view. It is very nice, but to see the actual sunset, it's only, you could just go a little higher about Ayin and see it. But okay, I don't want to complain. We're very thankful to Hashem for our view. Okay, so again, sunset. The sun penetrates the horizon, as it were, alluding to the secret in Kabbalah of the marital union of the sphere of Yesod, the back or west, with the sphere of Malchus. Now, I never thought of that. Isn't that unbelievable when you see a sunset to think that Yesod is marrying Malchus? The sun is penetrating the horizon. I'm very excited. I have to go higher up and see the sunset tomorrow. Even in Crown Heights, there's beautiful sunsets, by the way. If you find yourself in Crown Heights at sunset and it's clear, there's great sunsets on President Street, or many streets. Okay, so the sun penetrates the horizon. So Malchus kingdom is referred to as the Shekhinah, the divine presence, of which it is said, the divine presence is in the west. So that's that sun setting in the west. In the next chapter, we will see that Malchus corresponds to prayer, to davening, the inner spiritual reality of living in divine space. That's what we're going to be doing in divine space. I'm very excited about this next chapter, but we must be patient. In particular, it is the back or west, the commandment to guard one's mind, to ever remain loyal to one's spouse, which unites with the mitzvah of prayer. The mitzvah to guard one's mind, to ever remain loyal to one's spouse and Hashem, which unites the commandment of prayer. For this reason, we are taught that the hour of prayer is an hour of battle, the battle against foreign thoughts that attempt to bombard the mind, especially during the time of davening. So we've all experienced that. I'm sure people have heard this idea. I remember when I first heard this, the hour of prayer is the hour of battle. Like, it is a battle. It's a battle to recognize those thoughts, to gently let go of them, to put our mind back. I read once in the Shade Journal that Rebbetzin Hendel from Migdal HaEmek said that it really helps if we move our finger under the words that we're saying. It really helps to focus. But to say the word, at least that we can hear it. You can say it very low. So I find it really helps to know which word am I up to. Otherwise, I could really wonder, did I say Ashrei or not? That's not a very good feeling. You understand? Yes, so it's very good to underline the words because we want to focus on the davening. Okay, now it's time for our picture for Rav Yitzhak because we want him to have a refuah shalema, and we have such a nice group of people. Yes, there's my happy birthday friend there. I have to wish her a happy birthday. Okay, let's get ready. Let's put on those get well smiles. Come on, get well. So Rav Yitzhak Fivish Ben Brina Malka should have a refuah shalema. 1, 2, 3. Great, we did it. So thank you, everybody. It's really so empowering getting together and learning this together. Mwah. I love you all. I really appreciate your being here. Have a great week. Chai Elul this week, Tuesday night, Wednesday. Chayas and Elul, just what we need. Just when we need a little chayas, we're going to get it. So and don't forget, it's the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, and it's the Yortzeit of the Maharal of Prague. And the Alter Rebbe was 7 generations from the Maharal of Prague. So if you want to light a Yortzeit candle for Chai Elul, the Maharal of Prague. Yes. So thank you all. Mwah, lots of love. See you next week. Amir Hashem. Kol Tu. Bye-bye. Shalom, shalom.